In this lesson, we're going to learn how to properly format data, how to change the numbers to number formats, to accounting formats, to percentage formats. In addition to that, we're going to also learn how to increase and decrease decimal points. All of these which we'll be using very frequently in our financial modeling courses. First up, if you see the data sets over here, you can see that something is very odd. Number one, it does not have a comma on the thousandths decimal point as compared to other data sets. And number two, maybe we also want to change these numbers to percentage formats, and you can see that some of the inputs on the names are wrong, so maybe we have to also add some rows and columns to fix this income statement properly. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to learn how to format numbers. So the quick way to do that is you would select your desired cells and you would press Ctrl+Shift+1 simultaneously. So Ctrl+Shift the number 1 simultaneously. It would look something like this. Remember that if you're using a non-English version of Microsoft Excel, the decimal points might be different. In some versions, you won't have any decimal points created. In some versions, 1 decimal point, and in some versions like me, 2 decimal points will be automatically created. So that's what Ctrl+Shift+1 does. It changes your data formats, which ordinarily you would have to use your mouse to come in here and change your desired format, but Ctrl+Shift+1 instantly changes this to your number format. Same for these as well. Ctrl+Shift+1 does the trick. But sometimes you want to change the data sets to the accounting formats, and in those cases you would want to press Ctrl+Shift+4, and you can see that we're running out of the cells, but you can see that it creates a $sign on the front, or whatever desired currency sign on the front of the version of Excel that you're using. It changes to a currency format. But normally, instead of the currency format or the accounting format, we ordinarily use the number format. So again, back to Ctrl+Shift+1. And one more thing here is that these numbers, if you press F2, you can review where it's linked to. You can see that it's gross profit divided by revenue, which is the gross profit margin. So the names are different. So we first want to change the names to gross profit margins. And also we want to change these decimal point numbers to percentage point formats. So let's select the entire row, so Ctrl+Shift and the right arrow key. Ctrl+Shift+5 at the same time does the trick. So Ctrl+Shift+5 for changing it to a percentage format, Ctrl+Shift+4 to the currency format, Ctrl+Shift+1 to the number format. And you can see on your keyboard that the number 4 has a $sign on the top of the keyboard. So that's very natural to convert it to a currency sign. You can see that on number 5, there's a percentage sign on the top. So Ctrl+Shift+5 turns to percentage formats, which is also very natural. There are shortcuts for Ctrl+Shift+2, which changes to a time format, and Ctrl+Shift+3, which changes to a date format, but we rarely do use these formats, so I recommend that you only remember number 1, 4, and 5 for financial modeling purposes. Let's do the same for these data sets as well. Ctrl+Shift+5. And I think we have to change the names a little bit. So this should be named gross profit margin. So you can just simply type GPM because we want to overwrite the entire data. If you wanted to do some minor changes, you would have to use the F2 key, but in this case, just simply type over. This would be EBIT, operating profit, and maybe this would be operating profit margin. So I'm not sure if these data sets are completely correct. These are just samples for your Excel practice. But anyways, we've changed some of the names. Lastly, what we have to do is we would have to change the decimal points for our data sets as well. So the key is to select again the proper cells, and to decrease decimal points, Control Alt H9. I'm sorry about that. It's not Control, it's Alt H9 to decrease decimal points, Alt H0 to increase decimal points. And this as well, we're going to use very frequently in our future courses. So Alt H9, Alt H9 to decrease decimal points. For percentage formats, Alt H0 to increase decimal points. And this would be how we usually format our financial models. No decimal points for especially billion unit dollar cells, and probably just one single decimal points for margin calculations. So in this lesson, we've learned how to format data properly. We've learned how to change it to the number format, the accounting or currency format, the percentage format, simply by using the Control-Shift-1, 4, and 5 keys, and how to increase and decrease decimal points using Alt H0 and Alt H9.